HiSec Buyback offers 90% JITA anywhere in HiSec. Simply go to hisec.evebuyback.com, appraise your items, create a contract, and get paid quickly.
Army of Mango has disbanded, and Ranger Regimen along with them. Both Chinese groups were allied through relationships, but Ranger Regimen was part of the Imperium. And as AoM faced trouble with Fraternity in a war, AoM looked to merge with Ranger Regimen, but Imperium blocked that merger, and now both alliances have disbanded and are in the process of transitioning to something else. We'll find out what happened today on Talking in Stations. So Army of Mangoes has disbanded, and Ranger Regiment along with them. These are two Chinese alliances, and they have both come from the Serenity server. So a little bit of background before we talk to our friend Shen from Army of Mangoes. In 2018, CCP had a second server for China. You have a global server and then called Tranquility, and then you have a Chinese server called Serenity. Two servers. They mostly had the same build, except Serenity was a few patches behind normally. And CCP decided they were going to change the vendor who produced that for them in China in 2018. So Serenity went down. And at that time, you saw some people from that server want to play EVE Online on Tranquility, so they came over. And most of them settled initially with a group called Fraternity that had been around for a while. So Fraternity started to grow, and people on the server were very excited to see Chinese players come, because that was going to be a whole new force for the Australian time zone, now called the Chinese time zone. Or there are multiple time zones in that area where most United States and European players are not at their prime time. So this was a very exciting time. Fraternity started to grow. They put down a keepstar in 4.6 DP pretty early, I think in the fall of 2018. And then Serenity closed and more people started coming over. Now, Serenity had been what we call a pacified server. In other words, there was one group that had won a major war against other groups, multiple groups. And with that one group then dominated the server and suppressed anything that they wanted to, basically. And that group was led by a guy named Chairman Manto. We'll know about him in a little bit. So as Serenity's closed, some of those players, by the way, it's closed longer than expected. It's closed for 2 years. So in that time, more players came over from Serenity to play on Tranquility, and Monto among them. But he, of course, didn't want to join Fraternity. Fraternity was represented more so by the groups that were more or less beaten in Serenity. So he was the person that controlled Serenity more or less, big, personality. He comes over to Tranquility, and Army of Mango is created. And Mango, we believe, means man go where the chairman points, that sort of a thing. So Army of Mango, those are the Serenity winners, we'll call them. And they start growing in legacy space in Omist. That's where they land and they start to build. And so that's what happens there. Then later we have a corporate leader, Miss Bunny, or Miss Rabbit, and or Bunny Lou. Well, those are two different names for the same person. And there is a moment where she gives a lot of financial assistance through ISK to Ranger Regimen, which is part of the northern group, Guardians of the Galaxy or Dead Coalition, whichever name you choose for them. So there's a relationship between AoM and Ranger Regimen, and it's friendly. And Ranger Regimen, in return for that financial gift, proclaims that she is their queen and inspiration, and it's a token of friendship. Well, as time goes by, Ranger Regimen is dislodged from the north because Dead Coalition falls apart after pressure from other northern groups like Northern Coalition and Horde. And Ranger Regimen doesn't join Fraternity or the groups that beat Dead Coalition. Instead, they join the Imperium, and they settle with the Imperium. Fast forward a year later to 2020, a giant war starts in which Fraternity and AoM, who are natural enemies, decide that they're going to both be allied to the groups that are going to invade the Imperium space in Delve. And so those two groups, although they don't like each other, are not going to fight each other, they say, or they're going to put that on hold while they fight this big war that's happening in Delve. Turns out they ended up fighting each other more often than the Imperium. I think Fraternity showed up for one big super cap fight where they dropped dreads. And the reason for that was probably not only the Animus, but probably the time zone wasn't as critical in this war over the period of a year. So instead of being bored, they probably continue to fight each other, or they really just don't like each other so much that the Imperium is just not on their top priority list. Either way, the war ends and Imperium survives, Ranger Regiment survives. They go up north to Pureblind and start to have a bit of a campaign, which I believe I heard they didn't do very well, or they were on some kind of probation from the Imperium. I'm not sure, but they were not at their best. AoM, they see allies fall apart because they recreated PIBC coalition. They were the leaders of that coalition on Serenity. They're the leaders of the coalition here on Tranquility. But PIBC only has two other allies, Vindictive, which falls apart and leaves, and Evictus, which also falls apart recently due to AFK leadership. So Evictus falls apart, leaving AoM alone. In the process of falling apart, Evictus, one of the corporations, Hun Express, sells a Fortizar in their in AoM's territory, more or less, to Fraternity. And Fraternity steps up the attacks. There's a lot of pressure. The Prime Minister, Monto again is the figurehead of AoM, but the kind of Prime Minister type character is Fulcrum. You may recognize his name from Rooks and Kings. He belonged there, but he also played on Serenity. He's probably the bridge to Serenity for Rooks and Kings. They had a stint over there that people know about. Rooks and King being a popular alliance here on Tranquility. And Fulcrum, though, is the more or less FC and diplomat for AoM, and he is unavailable for a period of time recently that encompasses when Evictus fell apart and when the pressure from Fraternity is applied. The war heats up. They actually call it a war. They declare it. Noros does, sends a message out. And there's a big fight where the AoM actually does very well. They bring out 500 fighters. Fraternity brings out 1,000, and AoM still takes the day because they're defending and they had the bigger ships. So good showing, doing pretty well, but they don't have allies anymore. Vindictive's gone, Evictus is gone, AoM is under pressure, Fraternity is huge and determined, and now it's a formal war, so the writing's on the wall. Army of Mango has to decide what to do. They look at offers to have their players secure their resources that they've been building this whole time in the south where they live. And Ranger Regimen and AoM create an agreement with the Imperium through the second in command, which we later will find out is Merkel Chen is technically second in command, but we don't know his involvement in this deal. And that deal is a surprise to the Mittani, who is the leader of the Imperium, and he decides it's a good time to take possession of 2 keepstars and to get rid of Ranger Regimen. So Ranger Regimen is thrown out of the Imperium. The deal is blocked. The corporations from AoM and Ranger Regimen can stick around in the Imperium, but those 2 groups and their leadership are all gone. Manto is gone. Miss Rabbit or Bunny Lou, they're out. And I imagine everybody else, again, Fulcrum is not around at this time, so we don't know his relationship with the Imperium. But all that falls apart. AoM disbands, Ranger Regimen disbands, and that is what happened last week. So we're going to talk to Shen, who was actually in it. He's a little bit depressed during this session, as you would be. Anytime you lose space and lose your identity, it is a time that you have to reimagine your priorities. It's a tough spot. So enjoy the following program, and we'll see you at the end of it. Tell us what your last few days has been like.
Best words, I guess, is roller coaster. So everything started with, I think, Monday evening or Monday afternoon for me. That's when Frat started to reinforce our tactic keepstar, and that's like our staging keep. So that I killed about like 1 billion worth of bombers, but overall it's still reinforced. And the timer comes out for my time is Wednesday morning, and that's like AUTC. So Frat showed up with pull out the battle report. So that battle is kind of insane for the amount of people that AoM has pulled up. So just give people a perspective. A week ago from that time, we're about forming about like 100 when it's good time. So like during like a max CTA like that, we're expecting somewhere between like 100 and 150 people. But overall, we formed, just from AoM alone, we got about 500 dudes.
Wow.
So we're struggling to fill like half a fleet, and now we're doing like 2 full fleets. And it was supers and titans, everything. But from the Frat side, I think they doubled our number, if I'm not mistaken. I think just Frat alone is like almost 1,000 characters in that fight. So
Wow.
So that was a really, really like meat grinding thing. Like, but both sides lost a lot of ships. So Frat like,
But this sorts of thing, when a war starts, there is a big, I wouldn't call it a headshot or anything like that, but it is a show of presence, right? You show, look what we can bring to the field. So you did your best, they did their best, and they doubled your numbers. But you were expecting 150, you got 500. That's respectable. And you also had allies, I assume.
I mean, during that time, it's kind of hard. It's really AOTZ. A lot of our allies are like USDZ with UTZ. And one thing that I was surprised by is even Frat or Norris did a like war declaration technically on AoM. I thought AoM and Frat was always at war. I was not expecting the sudden change. So we're just officially at war right now. I was like, okay. So yeah, so that battle, it was one interesting part is if you look at some of the recordings of that fight, Frat was at 0 of the keepstar, which makes a lot of things for us really easy.
Means they're right next to it, right? 0 meters away, basically.
Yeah, okay. That means like cabs like Dreads and So for dreads, it's just lock and shoot hardware dreads. And for carriers, that means their fighters don't need to travel that far. Just send a fighter, one run of promod on, and the fighter's there, and then they can start hoarding on the Munings. So out of like the 600 or so Munings they brought, like they lost about 400 of them, I think, or 400 plus. And the keepstar was at the end repaired, and they called it off. Yeah, but no caps were committed from the Frat side.
There was stuff happening beforehand, and we'll
That's
talk
the beginning
about
of the week, basically.
But that's the beginning of this week, and it starts with a big battle. You guys defend pretty well. Meat grinder of a battle. Coming out of that battle, how did you guys feel?
Well, the keepstar at the time was called Stalingrad in reference to Stalingrad back in World War II. So that really truly lived. The joke was that name really represented itself over that battle. With doubled of number, we lose half of their ISK loss total. So everyone was really proud of that, to be honest, coming out of that fight, and everyone was really happy during that night after the fight. In the morning, well, from nighttime, and then AUTZs in the evening, we were called to a meeting, to Alliance meeting. And during that, the Alliance CEO, basically Mento, announced that we're going to merge with Ranger Regiments and basically joining the Imperium. So we were told that Imperium does not allow a full alliance to join them as of right now. And so the only way to get into Imperium was to break the alliance apart and join by each corp individually to Imperium. And that's what we did, essentially. We quit the alliance, wait for 24 hours, and then requested to join Ranger Regiments. But just a few hours after that, we got like the Guns ping from the Matani. In there, he says like basically the deal was not run by him, and he's gonna both kick Ranger Regiments and gonna basically not allow AoM to join as an alliance, basically. And at that time, the keepstar in Artake was already transferred to basically Goonswarm Executor Corp, I think that's it called, the DJ's retirement fund. Yeah. So basically, so at the time, either for AoM people, you either joined the Imperium Alliance and get your stuff out, or you have to asset safety them. So at the time, I think over another next 12 hours, Diplos were negotiating with Goons or the Imperium Diplos, and I don't think any deal was struck at the end. So the original deal was that Ranger Regiments will have 7 days to leave the Imperium, and AoM will have a full day, I think, to have access to the keepstar. Otherwise, the keepstar will shut for them. So with that, so Frat started already camping the keepstar. So what they do is they put 3 hicks, 2 hicks in the subcap on dock, and the cap is like the front part of the keepstar, and then 1 hick at the top where the super's on dock.
It's a heavy interdictor cruiser, right?
Yeah, and they're
built to capture things. Go ahead.
Yeah, they have their bubble up all the time, so it's basically impossible for any caps. Because when you're on dock, you don't have tether because you're not Imperium. If you are still in AoM, that's the case. So with that, 12 hours later, Mento announced, basically each corp go with your own way. That's basically the decision out of the end. Basically, each corp try your best to get your asset out, do whatever you want to survive as a corporation, and see you in the future. Basically, that's the message that we got. And from there, each corp has started to show their talents in terms of diplomatic skills and try to join other Imperium alliances. I mainly, if you look at the structure right now in Imperium, the only AOTs with the only Chinese alliance that's even possible would be Jakari's. So a lot of corporations went to Jakari's.
I'm just kind of curious. You had mentioned about that the initial deal was to move over into Ranger Regiment, and but evidently that wasn't approved by Imperium leadership slash Matani ahead of time. Who kind of worked that deal that didn't get it all cemented in before it happened?
In the second, about basically like the final alliance meeting that we had, Mento said it was run by Imperium Diplos and their second in command. Whether who that is, I don't know. That's what we're told. Yeah.
I think the simple answer is there's probably a cultural difference between Imperium and, well, the American side of Imperium and the Chinese side, and something was lost in translation, and the Chinese side thought it was all okay, and the American side said, "What the hell are you guys doing? Get out of here."
I mean, this is the thing with politics. You never know.
You can know if you ask somebody, unless they lie to you. If they lie to you, then they're not worth ever asking again. But everybody has a point of view. That's different. But you guys are saying exactly the opposite. Not the opposite, but you're saying something that makes a huge difference.
Well, one thing we can see consistently is that Matani didn't really know about the deal at all from either side.
I know, and that's happened in the past, right? I think that's what happened. He got told late. This is a critical point because it really tells you how people operate. It really tells you, what's going on here. We've seen this before, right? We had the case where the Seventh Estate was a new coalition alliance formed by Jintan of all people, right? And Jintan had friendly relations with Aerith, who was a big name inside Goonswarm. And they negotiated, I believe, I'm sure they negotiated the Seventh Estate moving up to Pureblind to take up space as a buffer zone to the north. This was back in like 2018. And that deal fell apart. And that deal fell apart because I believe Mani, or the top leadership, didn't know what was going on before they discovered that somebody very undesirable was working with Jintan. And so that was totally blown up. I think that was actually the beginning of the end for Aerith inside of Goonswarm. That's just my perception of it, because that was a pretty big rug pulled out from under him kind of thing. And we're seeing that again, where Matani's informed at the last minute and he pulls the deal. So it's not unlike him to do this, but we know that that's what happened. But the second in command of Imperium was aware of what was going on and knew the deal. That person has a lot of explaining to do, or that person never existed and your guy is not telling the truth. That's why this is interesting to me, because I've seen this before, and it clearly falls into the patterns of demonstration of power, right? It's a demonstration of power. Even the message that Matani puts out is, I'll just quote it here. What happens afterwards, and after you guys leave the keepstar, what happens afterwards is up to my whims. And right now, those whims are deeply unamused. And that's arrogance, and you can call it role play, and it is, to a certain degree, reveling in the power. But this whole message is, this is not how we do things, and what my whims decide is what's going to happen. That's a very singular point of reference, right? It's not like what's best for the group is what's going to happen. It's like whatever I decide is going to happen is going to happen. So he's playing king here, and it's going to be interesting to see if somebody has egg on their face inside of Goonswarm or the Imperium.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I guess a lot of members were just like me during that few hours, I guess. I mean, So there are a few phases of this thing. First one is we were announced that we're gonna merge with R, and until like between the time Mento announced the first announcement and between Matani sending out the ping, at the time everyone was really excited, to be honest, because if from what we were told that when we're in Ranger regiments, we can go back to what somewhat of a normal living schedule, right? We're gonna have ops regularly. We're gonna be able to use our big toys again, some like the capitals and stuff like that. So everyone was excited basically, and then we were open to all of the Blood Raiders and the Serpentis missions in Fountain and in Delph. Yeah, and people were looking forward to it, and until that basically was the I think Friday evening for those people in AOTZ. So that's the majority of AoM who are in AOTZ. So they went to bed with a really good news, and what they woke up to was not something they expected, to say the least. So they saw the deal, and everyone was basically panicking, to be honest. And until that evening, so people panicked for a day, and then that evening, we're just fine to say we tried. So the mentor said we tried our best, nothing can do, and let you go, basically. That's what our final message was that we got from the leaders.
Yeah. It's just a stark, like, here's the thing that's confusing. Either, okay, so we see a tweet here from Tani. It says, so the big boss of the Chinese server, the Chinese Eve server decided to try to make the move on me here in the main Tranquility server. Notice he says the main Tranquility server. And I've destroyed 2 alliances, gained 2 keepstars in less than 24 hours, and he's experiencing homeless. It's a hoot. You guys were kind of okay with going into the Imperium, so they could have gained a bunch of fighters, right? I mean, they could have, and you guys have a lot of hardware. As we saw, you formed 500 super capitals, all this other stuff. And you guys were willing to kind of go into Imperium, which would really enhance their hand. I don't understand why you would turn that away, except to sacrifice it for something else, which is a show of what? Personal power?
No,
like, that's the part that.
No.
That's what I think happened.
For a lot of people, even a lot of people in AoM or in other like Chinese communities, said the part of the problem is he doesn't like the Matani doesn't want like the entire chain of command of AoM.
He wants the people, not the leadership.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really scary, I'll admit. Like the fact that just one big meeting from Mental in to those corporations in Serenity can get us double, not even if not even triple our numbers. That's some leadership or some organization skills that can be harmful if you are not on the right side of things. And so like just the fact, like if you think about it, if you're the boss and one of your little allies is basically recruiting 6 times or 5 times their size, right? What are you going to think, right? Because the joke for that a few hours before the Matani ping was that 100 people, basically our 600 people surrounded to that 100 people.
You're saying that 600 people were joining 100 people.
Essentially, to your like actual like people able to get in fleet.
I mean, it seems to me that Ranger Regimen was just a landing pad. Like that was just a place where you had customary relations and you were just moving those people into a group that could effectively absorb them.
But no, Ranger Regimen was not able to absorb us. We were like, if it does go the other way, if Ranger Regiments comes to AoM, we were able to absorb them, I think.
No, but I'm saying like Ranger Regimen is the interface conduit to the larger Imperium. Imperium can absorb you, right? They have their organizations. They've been doing it a long time. They can absorb you into their processes. But Ranger Regimen would have been the conduit, the place that you land that has the same language, has the same time zone, has the same people who've already been there and kind of know period basis and can show you around and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm quite understanding this part. Then maybe I'm a little dense about it. Why would it be a problem that the smaller Ranger Regimen was merging with AoM, which is much bigger? Why would that? Where's the problem there?
If you think about it from the Imperium perspective, you had a year of war with this giant coalition. And one of your smaller allies down in the south, which is Imperial base, is directly attached to Delft region. And now one of the people who attacked you just joined, who are really a big size group, just joined one of your smaller size group, right? What is that kind of?
Yeah, but
what are the possibilities of that?
You guys didn't do that much during the war. Like, I didn't see you guys. Fraternity did much more. Fraternity showed up with dreads in the middle of the night. AoM didn't do anything. You guys survived. So you guys lost some titans to getting fished. Like, I'm not saying you're not powerful, but you guys didn't do much during the last war.
Yeah, but we're still on the other side of the BR, right? So I can see why the worry would come from.
You were on the other side, but you didn't do anything. You weren't even participating. You guys were. I mean, we covered it several times. You guys weren't a part of the actual. You were on paper. You were attached to treaties that you wouldn't violate, which showed like you guys are honorable. You're not going to violate your treaties. You're not going to backstab your friends. That to me is a good sign that you're loyal allies. You guys didn't really engage in the war. It never really hit your time zone in an effective way. You didn't pull anything unhanded, even against the Imperium that I saw, unless there's something that I missed. And so you guys aren't, in my opinion, you guys aren't really a threat except on paper. And to be able to absorb however many guys you are, if you put 500 on the field, that's pretty significant. Why would you turn that down? Why would you turn down those guys? That's what doesn't add up. And the only thing I can think of is you turn that down because you want to make a statement. And the statement is, I'm very powerful. As far as intellectual or not psychological motivations to do things, this one to me doesn't make sense, except that you're performing power. Who are you performing power for? And who is that power over that you're demonstrating to? And is it worth losing 500 combatants? That, to me, it just seems like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, this is all for show. And again, we've seen it before, coming in late on decisions, feeling surprised, rejecting it to make sure everybody knows. I kind of feel like that might be what knocked Aerith out of Goonswarm, pretty much. That's a total observation. I'm not saying that's what happened. That's how I see what happened. It was basically an ego shift, and Matani's always going to win those, right? Who's going to displace him? There is no displacing that. He is the brand. So, trying to be a player in that arena needs that stamp of approval at the very end. And if that comes late, you look like an idiot. So if he made Aerith look like an idiot, Aerith's the guy that architected Delve, made it as strong as it was, pretty much. If that guy gets checked, who's this other guy? Of course he's going to get checked. Right. All right. So again, you're finding that moving into Ranger Regimen. By the way, why would you move into Ranger Regimen? Let's talk a little bit about history. What does AoM and Ranger Regimen have in common?
First of all, they're both AOTZ, and they're both Chinese alliances, so language-wise, it works. And also, so this is what I know of, which is technically the queen of Ranger Regiment is Bunny Liu, which is also one of the corps CEO in AoM.
So you have a VIP in common. There's a relationship there, because the queen, and I think that's kind of funny. We don't really think of space queens or space kings in this game, but you have Regiment has pledged allegiance to, I think it's role play, right? To, what's her name? Bunny Liu. I call her Miss Rabbit. You're calling her Bunny Liu. It's the same person. And they basically say we'll forever be grateful for the help that she gave them. Ranger Regiment received some big amounts of money when they were living in the North a few years ago.
I mean, is
It was
there
a big
any?
deal at the time.
Yeah, it was there any deal struck to make her the queen of Ranger Regiments? I don't know.
Yeah, she.
but
yeah.
I
Oh,
think
well,
I mean,
she loaned them money. She also happens to be an attractive young lady, which is just kind of rare in EVE in general. It's 96% guys play EVE online. So it's rare, and they get treated a little differently, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But so it's, but I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with it as much. That doesn't have as much to do with it as the fact that she gave them billions and billions of ISK so that they could buy some structures, buy some ships, enhance their position when they were living in the North. And so she didn't buy them off, but she gave them a really nice financial package that ingratiated them. And I think there's also, some real life connections there we can't talk about. But the point is, she's done some nice things for Ranger Regimen.
So but like, so overall, I really feel bad for Ranger Regiments, at least the members of Ranger Regiments, that they basically woke up one day hearing, oh, AoM is going to join us. Second day, woke up, they're getting kicked from Imperium.
That is whiplash.
And so like, I just feel bad for them. Like, they're saying, oh, we didn't do anything wrong, and why this happened to us? And like, they didn't, the members themselves, like, it was not even foreseen for them. So I would feel really bad if something happened that to us or to me. It was like flower, it was smooth, everything was smooth, and then one day you wake up, you know what, you're gonna get going, you're gonna join another group, or you have to be kicked. So like,
yeah, that's terrible. It's basically saying, like, we're kicking out your fathers. You children can stay, but we're kicking out your fathers. You have a relationship with leadership, right? You follow their orders, and in exchange, you get a situation. And then when they're leaving, you have to think, like, am I loyal to the situation or am I loyal to my fathers? That's a tough decision. Unless you don't like it, I don't know. It just depends. But I think that's a tough decision. All those Ranger Regiment guys have to make. And AoM too, right? Now you have to decide, am I going into the Imperium that mistreated my leadership or doesn't want my leadership, my leaders? They don't want my leaders. They want me, but they don't want my leaders. Do I want the situation, or am I offended because they don't like my father? They don't like my mother. That's the decision that a player has to make. And then if you don't like your parents, that's an easy decision. I want the situation. I don't care if they like my mother or father. All right. So Ranger Regiment wakes up one day and they're going to be joined by AoM. They wake up the next day and they're out of the Imperium. All right. Well, I think we got the story of AoM coming to an end here. Here's the one thing that doesn't get discussed a lot. I think we've talked about it, but Serenity opened back up. Weren't Serenity players? Again, Serenity's a Chinese server, and a lot of the people that we're talking about today are Chinese players. They play in that time zone. And so did a lot of them go back to play Serenity now that it's open again and say, we don't really want to play off hours in the West?
I mean, that hit into our population was before I joined. So before I joined, I think servers already opened back up. So what I heard, okay, I was not part of the group at the time, but what I heard is that when we come here, we had about 500, 600 people, and that kind of just went away when Serenity just opened back up. So that's why you're seeing that 500 characters basically log in during that big fight. It was basically what we call zombies from the past that just suddenly just decided to wake up one day because they were called, and that was the whole point basically of them still stay in the corp. So even you don't want to play on Tranquility anymore, you still have your characters, you have all the skills you have, and with that you can just, when times like that, when you're needed, please join back. And they were basically able to get online, grab a doctrineship, and get into the fight right away. Some people even had capitals back in the days, because capital was cheap back in the day. So
here's a question that Katya actually dug up that I missed. And this is from Tibinar, who's also a fan of Talking In Stations. I might have missed something here, but did AoM leadership decide to make the regiment move that ultimately falls through, and AoM senior leadership just goes into hiding to have former more junior leadership clean it up?
okay, I think in this case he's referring to Fulcrum, I would assume.
Fulcrum would have been senior leadership,
yeah. Fulcrum is away in real life, basically, and
has been for a while, right?
It has been for a while, and that's when, I won't say the problem starts, but that's when things gets how can I say, gets different. When Fulcrum was away for a period of time, or has been away for a period of time, and there's nothing, so basically other FCs has to take over. Fulcrum was the most experienced in TQ, so yeah, and
it's part of Rooks and Kings.
Yeah, people were actually waiting. Like, at least for me, for a period of time, I was waiting on, like, if Fulcrum comes back, things we have a hope, and our hope was Fulcrum. And if he comes back, then we're able to do something. Then maybe a solution or a deal will be struck, and then maybe we can get back to the way we were back in the days. But I guess we just didn't hold up the line until he came back. So yeah,
he didn't come back soon enough, and he's going to come back to a different situation if he comes back. Fulcrum was AOM's like English speaking FC, one of their major FCs, and obviously their diplomat because he could speak the language.
I mean, part of the thing is that he took on so many roles, and once he left, it's kind of hard for like another person to pick all of his roles and to be able to do everything he did back in the days. But he's really, really respectable at FC and really enjoyed his fleet a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Shen, good luck in the initiative now. You are just a line member again, right?
Woohoo, yeah.
Feel good?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to take me a while to get used to everything, but I hope I will make it.
That's the gameplay you're looking for. All right.
Yeah, like just no surprises for like a while. I feel like it's a good thing. Just like things are expected, everything just goes smoothly. Yeah. I mean, this is once in a life experience, I would say.
Oh no, this is EVE Online. You'll experience this again. I just am not sure how soon.
Oh no. And yeah, just Ranger Regiments. I mean, it's kind of, if you think about the butterfly effect, right? If you can say, right? So with all of this, I mean, I think it's public now that like there's a corp who left actually before all the announcement that from AoM joined Horde, and that's the corporations that brought the war deck between Horde and Frat, because Frat was a war deck with AoM. So if you think about it, Evictus disbanding leads to a war between Horde and Frat, right? Like,
just on paper.
Yes.
But yeah. I don't know. There's some tension there, but that's just on paper.
Yeah, I see. Like
it's just a mechanics goof, is what that is.
Yeah, perspectives, and it gets interesting at times.
Well, the collapse is interesting, right? From let's take Vindictive out of it, but you have Evictus going down, and in going down, they complicate things for you. You're already on the back foot. You're missing Fulcrum, who's your leader. Then you end up having Fraternity step up the force, step up the the attacks, and you guys have no allies, that's a lot of pressure. And you have a Fortizar you can't kill because somebody gave it to them or sold it to them. So they made off with a profit, but they screwed you in the process. And then you have Fraternity showing up with double your number. And even if you have allies, you have soft allies because the people you were aligned with, Test, Legacy, are gone. They're gone. They've gone east and they're diminished after the war. And you have to look for a different situation. And so you look at your traditional ally Ranger Regimen who says, yeah, let's broker this deal. They talk to, according to them, Goon Swarm's second leadership. I guess that wasn't good enough because the arrangement is made and within 24 hours, the arrangement is completely revoked and it gets them in trouble and they get thrown out. Again, because it looks like it was a surprise. So all that happening is a traumatic amount of fail cascading that we haven't seen in a long time, which is neat for us, not for you. But thanks for sharing your story, Shen, and good luck to you now in the initiative.
Thanks.
So Fraternity put out a message. It is in Chinese. And Noros, this is from him. And we can ask him directly later on, but he's a bit busy. Shen, can you translate for us what this is here?
Basically, the first line saying AoM was not resist anymore. The only strategic objective for them is the Artag A keepstar. And once that's done, they will do a full review or like a full alliance meeting on that. Right now, their goal is to collect all assets and be ready to go home. So that means basically packing up, go back to Vale. So essentially their job right now in Esoteria is done, right? Their goal was to, what is it called? Kill AoM, and they complete it. So now they're going back. So there's some details. So the gay camp or the keepstar camp now. I mean, Artag A will still continue, but as time goes on, it gets worrying because either the young people joined Imperium or they're just going to asset safety them. So just keep up the work and it'll be done quickly. So if you're in UTAC W, keepstar, Fortizar, just contract back everything to the Alliance. DTAC B keepstar will be unanchored. 60K will also you can contract ship back to the Alliance there. Artag A keepstar, so they drop the keepstar right across the. Fortizar. Everything I said was Fortizar. Okay. Artag A Fortizar will be given to Stenko, and they will stage from there right now. So you can buy supers and that stuff. Just make sure you're able to bring them back to Vale within one fleet.
Thank you for. So that's what Naro says for Fraternity, what their plans are next. They did say at the beginning of the Pappy versus Imperium war, I had Noros on at the same time as Fulcrum. I also had Pando at the same time as Villy, all on this show. So we had 4 people that were involved in the war on all different sides. And they said that they were making peace, and that is that Fraternity and AoM were making, not peace necessarily, but they were going to work together to be part of this massive coalition. Turns out only Fraternity really did stuff that I remember that was super significant. But one of the things that they said that was pretty funny was, Noro said, I'm going to kill you, AoM, but first I'm going to do this war with Test and with the Pappy, which was pretty funny because you said it right there on screen.
I don't know if it's true for Frat as well, but for us, I think we killed more Fraternity people during the year than actually just because there was nothing like nothing we can do. Like if we form a fleet now, we're either going to get whelped or nobody's going to fight. But if we fight Frat, there's plenty of content. It's the right times when everything was fit. It's like
that's hilarious. You killed more Frat during the war than you did Imperium.
I mean, the only memorable one I think M2 basically. That was a fight involved everyone. I don't think anyone in the universe on that 2 days was not involved. But other than that, people were like, yeah.
Okay, let's go to one last thing, and that is what's weird about this is like I thought, oh my god, Imperium's going to luck out. They just picked up AoM, merged into the Imperium. That bolsters numbers and period basis. What a good thing for them. And so the surprise of throwing that away because I don't know why, because it went wrong. It didn't happen the right way, I suppose. And then to say these are our enemies being invited in is just not the case. It's just not, except on paper. But it's a real good opportunity to look like a decisive and dramatic leader, which I think is what's going on here. I think he's also putting his thumb on, oh, you think you're big in the Chinese server? Well, you're nothing here. I think there's an element to that. And then I think it goes even beyond that because anytime there's like, a pretty young lady involved, there's a demonstration of power and peacocking and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I think there's more to this than some kind of strategic mastermind plan. I think it could have been a good move for you guys and the Imperium. I think Imperium kind of shot themselves in the foot here. Okay, so what does Drone Wang say about it? He's from Ranger Regimen, I assume, right?
Yeah, he is basically the leader, I think. I don't know too much about Ranger Regiment structure with their chain of command, but I think he's one of the leader, if not the leader of Ranger Regiments. So basically, he's taking on 100% of the blame. And yeah, saying that it is his fault and he admits it. And he basically says he's going to... his goal, his last order would be continue to play and continue to live through on TQ and just keep playing. Yeah.
Well, he may not get that. How many people in these two groups are Serenity players who are like, forget this. This is stupid. We just want to play this game and fight. Like how many of them are like, I'm going back to Serenity. I don't want to play in this unstable environment of tranquility.
I think people who are in either Drakari's, Ranger Regiments, or Fraternity, I don't think they really want to play or they have the option to play on Serenity anymore because of the past history, I think. There either some grudge against Mento or something's going to happen. Something happened back in the days. So for them, it's like, no, we're not doing it. And yeah, they don't really have a back options. Actually, I don't think this affects Mento himself that much. He's just gonna go back to Serenity. If anything.
Sure. He's a powerful player there. Yeah, I think this is interesting. So he's saying, but stick around. But what do you think the players will do? Do you have any sense of what other Chinese players are going? Are they going to leave Tranquility and go?
No. So they did a live stream on Bilibili about the Disband, and I watched part of it. The message is basically different corps are going different ways, and most of them are either leaving the Imperium or they're joining to another alliance. Yeah, so they didn't disclose too much about each corps, but it seems like most of them wants to keep playing, and yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks for that translation too. All right, thanks for watching today. Since we recorded this, the Army of Mango diplomat Fulcrum has said that they don't have any kind of a statement at this moment. And as you know, Ranger Regiment has disbanded, as has Army of Mango. Some of those corporations' members have actually moved into the Imperium, to Drakaris mostly, and some are actually lying low or trying to work out their asset safety. There is a keepstar that will probably be marked for the destruction and looting that is in the hands of the Imperium. And that was the staging keepstar for AoM. That was transferred over at the beginning of the agreement to move over to the Imperium. And so Imperium kept it and will destroy it. The result is Manto, from what we've heard, this could be a rumor, is not real happy with the situation and considers Imperium enemy number one, even more so than Fraternity. which is interesting. So when it returns, if he returns, it is said that he will call for those members and that they should go. They should go where the chairman points. So we'll see if that holds up. All right. Thanks very much for watching Talking in Stations. We appreciate all your support. We will see you next time on TIS.